The wedding surprise that left everyone speechless. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I find the envelope on my vanity between the hairpins and vows. White as a warning and heavy with air. The handwriting is careful, unfamiliar, the kind that leans forward like it wants to confess. Inside, a single USB drive and a card with a link, password scrawled under it, the letters pressed so hard they almost tear the paper. The file name on the drive matches our wedding date, down to the hour we walk down the aisle. Someone wants me to open this before I become someone's wife. I'm Nora, 29, logistics manager by trade and compulsive receipt keeper by instinct. Every centerpiece, every deposit, every timeline is a spreadsheet with conditional formatting. Today should be simple math. Arrive, breathe, marry Lucas, the man who can turn a crisis into a toast. Our families flew in. Elena ironed my veil at dawn, and on the group chat, Priya's green bubbles ping, reminding me to drink water and to eat the emergency granola bar. I lock the door, plug the drive into my laptop, and hover over the file. A video thumbnail of darkness and a blue status bar. Then his voice, Lucas's, enters the room like a guest with no RSVP. If you're seeing this, it's worse than I hoped, he says, low, steady, terrified beneath it. There's a document that might surface today. I'm fixing it. Don't call Clerk Morales. Not yet. The screen shows a desk, a leather portfolio, the corner of his suit. I hit pause so hard the trackpad stings. Don't call Clerk Morales? I only know that name because I checked our license twice. Did he think I wouldn't? Or that I would? And that's why he recorded this. I swallow, measure the distance between denial and disaster, and unlock my phone. Priya, you okay? Elena, no scenes today, mi amor. Remember what you deserve. I deserve the truth more than I deserve a perfect photo. I press play again, and Lucas says there's more in the envelope, tucked in the lining, a second pocket I didn't notice. My hands find a seam, rip it, and a folded receipt slides out. County clerk's office, yesterday, for 37 p.m. Duplicate application fee. Duplicate for what? I stand very still as if stillness can stall a lie. Then my phone buzzes with an unknown number, and a new text says, "We need to talk before you say I do." I don't answer the unknown number. I press my phone to my chest like a shield and hear the thunder of bridesmaids in the hall. Priya knocks once, then twice. Her code for open or I pick the lock. I let her in. She scans my face, then the laptop, then the envelope, connecting dots like she's been waiting for a puzzle. Don't spiral alone, she says, closing the door. What happened? I show her the video. We listen to Lucas's voice together, the measured calm of his work presentations. It chills me more than a shout would. Priya rewinds and pauses on the portfolio. Freeze frame shows a county seal, she notes. If he's warning you away from Morales, he knows a paper trail exists. I peel back the timeline of our relationship like tape from glass. We met at a charity 10K where he volunteered at the water station. He kept my hoodie for a week to see me again. He remembered Elena's birthday, charmed my tiny family until they felt bigger. When we fought, he apologized with specificity, like an attorney citing clauses. 2 nights ago, his groomsman joked Lucas never panics. He prioritizes. Right now, I hear prioritizing as choosing which truth to tell. Could this be an ex-stirring drama? Priya asks. Or a vendor you canceled? I want that to be true. I can shoulder an ex. I can email a vendor. But the receipt in my hand says duplicate application, and duplicates aren't for nerves. Priya takes a photo of the receipt, toggles live mode to inspect micro timestamps. The clerk's stamp looks fresh. He was there yesterday after rehearsal, she murmurs. I'm checking county hours, seeing who was on desk. I call Elena. Mom, I say. Someone sent me a video about Lucas. Silence. Then the soft exhale of a mother who has trained for disasters. If there's a mistake, fix it after, she says. No scenes. A scene might keep me from a trap, I say. Mi amor, she whispers. Our family finally looks stable. Her plea is a mirror I don't want to stand in front of. Priya's phone chimes. She flashes me a look. Guess who processed yesterday's late filings, she says. Morales didn't. Someone on a special window did. A knock rattles the door. Lucas asks to come in alone. I open the door only a crack. Priya plants herself behind me, arms crossed, maid of honor and bouncer in one. Lucas looks perfect in slate blue, the tie we agreed on, the cufflinks Elena gifted him, eyes calibrating the room. He sees the laptop on the vanity and the envelope's torn lining. "Please listen before you decide anything," he says softly. "There's been a mix-up at the clerk's office, and yesterday," I say, holding up the receipt, "for 37 p.m. duplicate application fee." His mouth opens and then shuts, the way elevators do when someone waves an arm. "I thought you'd panic if I told you there was an issue," he says. "So you recorded a message telling me not to verify it?" Priya asks. Lucas flinches. "Morales hates me," he says, smile brittle. "He flagged my signature once for being too straight." "It's nothing. Signature issues don't require duplicates," Priya replies. "Fraud does." I'm not sure whose heart is louder, mine or the hotel's. He steps nearer. I step back. "I love you," he says. "I'm protecting you from a clerk who wants to flex." Protecting me from a public servant is a strange definition of love. My phone buzzes again. Unknown number, then a voicemail transcribed into a single sentence that hits like a dropped tray. "Check the registry edit history. Entries were altered at 2:12 a.m. I open the app where we store the gifts and see that someone added 2 items overnight: airline vouchers and a wire instruction note masquerading as a honeymoon upgrade. It's subtle enough to escape sleepy eyes, obvious enough to drain our guests. "Who has admin access besides us?" I ask. "Just my mother," he says too fast. The word mother sits between us like fragile glass. His mother hates public mess. She polishes narratives spotless. Priya's fingers skate over my keyboard. "IP address traces to the hotel network," she says. "This floor." "Nora," Lucas says, "I'll fix it. I'll remove the gifts." He reaches for my hand, but I keep both on the vanity. I think of Elena's plea, of the guests who saved for flights, of the moral algebra I'm doing while my makeup sets. "One question," I say. "Why duplicate the license yesterday?" His silence answers, and when he finally speaks, he says only, "It wasn't for us. It was to legalize something you can't accept." "Legalize what?" Priya asks, but Lucas's eyes slip to the door like the answer might escape. A commotion rises, silverware clinks, a florist curses, a stranger says my name. Priya checks the peephole. "Stranger in a navy blazer asking the front desk where your suite is," she reports. I feel the envelope's absence like a missing tooth. "If you invited someone to stop the wedding, at least be creative," Lucas says, half joking, panic cutting through it. The knock is polite, measured. Priya opens with the chain still on. A woman in her early 30s stands there, lanyard looped, eyes puffy. "Nora," she asks. "I'm Ivy. I left the envelope with the concierge." Lucas's face reorganizes into a smile I don't like. "We don't need your services," he says, too smoothly. "I'm not a vendor," Ivy replies, sliding a badge toward the gap. "County. Special window." Priya unhooks the chain, only enough for Ivy to pass the card. The seal glints. "Clerk's office." Ivy lowers her voice. "I'm here off the clock. A woman came yesterday filing an emergency duplicate marriage application to protect an inheritance. She wasn't with her intended groom. She had your groom." My stomach falls like a lift with cut cables. Lucas palms his tie, buying seconds. "My mother panicked," he says. "She thought some language needed refreshing." Ivy shakes her head. "Stamped under a statute for quiet corrections in cases of legal impediment." The phrase lands hot and clinical. Priya leans forward. "Meaning he's not legally free or someone wants it to appear so?" Ivy's silence is an answer that refuses to participate. "I didn't want to ruin your day," she says, "but your registrar invites it to embed wire instructions." It looked targeted. I look at Lucas. He looks at my future like a negotiable instrument. No scenes. My mother texts again, as if repetition is a spell. I breathe. Then I ask Ivy what she risks by telling me this. "My job," she says, "and my conscience if I stay quiet." She slides a manila folder under the gap. My receipt fingers pull it through. I open it. Pages humming with toner and thread and the memory of signatures. It lists Lucas as married 18 months ago, neighboring county. I stare at the certificate until the letters stop crawling. The bride's name is blurred in the copy, a privacy block, but the signature lines are clear: Lucas's practice sweep, the officiant's looping J, and a witness initial that could be anyone's. I flip to the second page and find a note. Quiet correction requested. See addendum. Ivy taps the margin. The addendum is sealed, she says. That's why I came as a person, not as a clerk. Lucas exhales like he's been underwater. My mother handled it, he says. I didn't want noise coming into today. Priya folds her arms. Noise is when a mic feeds back. This is a fire alarm. Lucas takes my hands, and for a moment I feel the weight of the ring he hasn't placed yet. I love you, he says, not looking at Ivy. I made mistakes. None of them are about you. His words are a sack of feathers, soft, but still a sack. If there's a prior marriage, you tell me now, I say. He hesitates. It's not a marriage, he says. It's a guarantee. To whom? Priya asks. Family, he says, and the word drips vague. Ivy shakes her head. Statutes don't care about poetry, she says. They care about status. I hear Elena's voice coming down the hall, the shuffle of dresses, the fizz of soda in plastic cups. They're lining up, Priya murmurs, glancing at the clock. We have 50 minutes until vows. 50 minutes is both too much and not enough. What would you do? I ask Priya, even though I already know. I'd verify the impediment, she says. Morales can confirm if the addendum mentions an existing spouse. Lucas tenses. Don't call Morales, he says, echoing the video. Please. Ivy lifts her hands. I'm out of bounds already, she says. But there's another way. Check the hotel folio for last night. Look for duplicate keycards. Priya's thumbs are already moving, hacking the guest portal like she's ordering room service. She looks up, triumphant and sad. Room 421 issued a second key at 2:06 a.m., she says. Name on file. I ask. Lucas. My throat tightens. Who took the key? The face matches a portrait in Lucas's family room. His mother. We follow Ivy down the service elevator because the guests own the pretty ones. The hallway behind the banquet kitchen smells like coffee and new paint. Staff thread past with trays, faces studiously neutral. Priya keeps pace like a metronome at my shoulder, while Lucas trails half a step behind, rehearsing sentences, sanding them smooth before they land. If you talk to Morales, he says, you'll trigger a hold that ruins nothing but today. Ivy presses her badge against a locked side door and ushers us through to a tiny office with a breakroom table and a humming desktop computer. I can't access sealed addenda, she says, but I can tell you which statute was invoked and who signed the request. Who? I ask. Ivy's fingers clatter. The screen shows a case number, a statute code, and a single line I don't want to read. Requester, Elena M. Santos, with Lucas as party to be notified. My mother filed something? The room tilts. She came with his mother, Ivy says carefully. Two elegant women in crisis shoes. Priya looks at me over her glasses. We need your mom, she says. Now. I call Elena and tell her to meet us in the staff corridor. No questions, no promises. When she arrives, her lipstick is perfect and her eyes are not. She sees Ivy and folds her purse tighter. You weren't supposed to find this, she says to me, small and fierce. I wanted you married before anyone could use the old paperwork against him. Against him? I repeat. What about me? Elena's explanation pours out like a dam giving way. 18 months ago, during a brief separation, Lucas signed a courthouse document with a woman he never lived with, a financial guarantee, drafted by an uncle who behaves like a lawyer at holidays. It functioned as a safety net while a trust dispute resolved, marriage-like on paper, dissolvable by quiet correction once a new union was recorded. It's disgusting and legal adjacent, Ivy says, face hard. Lucas nods, pale. It was leverage, he admits. Not love. My chest tightens. Why not tell me? He looks at Elena instead of me because cowards choose the softest eyes. Because you'd hesitate, he says. And hesitation kills momentum. Priya lifts the manila folder. Momentum toward what exactly? An inheritance peg? She asks. Lucas's silence sets the room temperature to ice. Tell her the timing clause, Ivy says, voice low. Lucas rubs his cuff and finally says it. A distribution only vests if he is married by tonight. We all hear the band rehearse upstairs as the timing clause lands like dynamite. The breadcrumb trail is suddenly everywhere. Priya turns investigator with the terrifying efficiency of someone who has loved me since we cheated on a middle school science fair together. She pulls up our vendor emails and filters for 2 a.m. when the registry edits happened. Here, she says, pointing at a confirmation from the projector rental. Last-minute upgrade at 2:14 a.m. Paid by a credit card ending in 1137. The same 4 digits on Lucas's corporate card. You were planning a slideshow? She asks. Lucas blinks. My mother wanted childhood photos, he says, but the invoice line reads, HDMI direct input prep, live switch included. That's not a slideshow, that's a broadcast. I open the hotel app and look at guest services. 2 extra dessert carts, comped, delivered to the reception hall at 2:30 a.m. Who rehearses dessert at 2:30? Priya mutters. Ivy scrolls through a public-facing staff roster and maps who could access the special window last night. The signature on the emergency duplicate, she says, belongs to a deputy who only appears when donors or electeds need favors. My stomach remembers the fundraiser where Lucas's mother looped her arm through the mayor's like a charm bracelet. So the plan, Priya says, was to correct the impediment by smashing it with a new marriage and laundering the money through gifts. Lucas's mouth thins. The clause is cruel, he says, as if cruelty and inevitability are synonyms. If I miss tonight, the trust flows to my cousin who honestly thinks Uber is public transit. If you win tonight, I marry into a lie, I say. I become your crowbar. Ivy leans back, eyes tired. The statute has 2 outcomes, she says. Proceed and ratify the correction by celebrating the new union, which makes contesting hard later, or hold and force a review, which burns the clause and the night. Elena whispers, Nora, mi amor, the money helps everyone. My love for Elena has survived mold, layoffs, and when she dated a magician. It shakes now. Everyone who? I ask. Our rent? Your prescriptions? His mother's lifestyle? Priya closes her laptop with a tiny, final click. We set a trap, she says. No screaming. Just evidence and questions on a screen. She looks at me. We use that projector and let receipts speak. Upstairs, the officiant tests the mic, and the speakers pop like something breaking. The mini twist arrives with a text that could be a prank. A blurry screenshot of a bank transfer labeled pre-ceremony stipend, GS. Priya frowns. GS. I murmur, and she swipes again. Another screenshot. The same label appears next to a recurring memo. Umbrella guarantee. Renewal. Paid from Michelle with an address matching Lucas's family office. Ivy whistles softly. Not bigamy, she says. Not exactly. Lucas rubs his temple. The marriage was a contract to steer a trust vote, he admits, voice stripped. No romance. We agreed to annul when the board formalized the distribution. Then my mother tightened the screws. He looks at me, naked for once. I meant to untie the knots before today. Priya's jaw sets. But you needed Nora's signature to cut the last rope. Ivy taps the statute code again. The correction clears the old contract if the new one is made in good faith, she says. Good faith requires disclosure to the new spouse. We all sit with that. Elena's eyes shine. I thought you'd forgive the omission if the result was security, she says. Security for who? I ask, the question a thread through generations. The stakes reshuffle. Not cheating, not a secret family, but an inheritance ploy that uses me as sanitizer. My nausea is a compass. It points due north to the truth. What's our why? Priya asks. We need motive more than mechanics. Ivy nods. Check the voting calendar for the trust, she suggests. Priya pulls up a PDF from a board newsletter cached in Lucas's email. Vote tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, she reads. Distribution contingent upon beneficiary meeting stability criteria, defined as legal marriage recorded in the same quarter. The quarter ends tomorrow. It's not romance, it's a stopwatch. They chose your love to solve their scheduling problem, Priya says, voice soft as a blade. Lucas opens his palms like a penitent. I wanted both, he says. Love and solvency. I stand. The hem of my dress whispers secrets to the carpet. Here's what we do, I tell Priya. We prep the projector with a tight reel, timestamps, receipts, the clause. We ask one question on the mic. Did you plan to tell me after the ring? Ivy nods. If he lies, the deputy's signature goes public. Somewhere above us, a violin warms up, and my spine decides not to bend. We move like a small, determined crew staging a heist that steals back a life. Priya claims the projector table with the possessiveness of a cat discovering a new laptop. She plugs in her own machine, overrides the rental's default playlist, and drops in a simple deck. Slide 1 is the duplicate application receipt. Slide 2 is the guest registry logs with the 2:12 a.m. edits highlighted. Slide 3 is the trust memo with the stability criteria underlined. Slide 4 is a blank white screen that says, in black type, question, when were you going to tell the bride? Ivy adds a slide with the statute summary. Short words, big implications. This is civil, not criminal, she says. But fraud is a tone you can hear. Elena hovers, wringing her hands, torn between love and the shape of it. We could still marry quietly, she offers a whisper. Fix the paperwork after. I take her hand and hold it. Mom, I say. If I say vows this way, they become evidence against me. She flinches like the word evidence bites. Lucas watches us, ruin written in his posture. I'll call the board, he says. I'll tell them we're postponing. Priya shakes her head. They'll see strategy, she says. They'll assume Nora is leverage. Ivy sets her badge on the table like a confession. If you proceed, I file an ethics memo. She warns Lucas, not unkind. I won't be part of laundering a correction with a wedding. We agree on timing. We let the processional happen. We walk to the altar, and when the officiant asks if anyone objects, I raise my hand. Not to object, but to ask for the projector. Do we warn the officiant? Priya asks. No, I say. I want an honest surprise. My voice doesn't shake. I can do that later. Ivy squeezes my shoulder. You are allowed to protect yourself, she says. Lucas touches the wall like he's bracing an earthquake. If you love me, he says, please don't do this in front of my mother. If you loved me, I reply, we wouldn't be here. The doors to the ballroom swing open, and the string quartet starts our song. The aisle is a narrow river, and everyone I know sits like stones on either bank. Elena is a tremor wrapped in satin. Lucas stands at the altar, handsome and haunted, his mother 2 rows back, pearls tight against her throat. Priya is a lighthouse. I steer by her. The officiant smiles with practiced warmth. We gather, he begins, to witness a promise. The word promise feels like a light bulb too hot to touch. I look at Lucas and try to see the man who brought my mother caldo when she had the flu, who learned my grandmother's recipe for rice and never bragged about it. That man exists inside this one, but he is not driving. Before we begin, the officiant says, is there any reason? I raise my hand. Gasps flutter like napkins. Lucas flinches, glancing at the projector table, then back at me, then toward the back where hotel staff pretend not to be part of a play. I'm not objecting. I say, my voice steady in the mic. I'm requesting a few minutes to share context that affects consent. The officiant pauses, then nods, cleric and human both. Proceed, he says softly. Priya hits the first slide. The duplicate receipt blooms on the screen like an unwelcome ultrasound. A murmur rolls the room. Lucas shifts. His mother's lips disappear. Slide 2, registry logs. Edits at 2:12 a.m. Slide 3, the trust stability clause, simplified. Elena closes her eyes. Priya keeps her voice clinical. These are receipts, she says. They tell a timeline. I look at Lucas. When were you going to tell me? I ask. That tonight's deadline is not about vows but vesting. He swallows. After, he whispers. The crowd inhales. The officiant's face goes slack, then careful. Ivy steps forward and, without revealing her job, recites the statute in plain words. How good faith requires disclosure. Lucas's mother stands. This is vulgar, she says to the room. Private family matters aren't for projectors. I hold the mic like a life ring. Then we should have kept them out of public contracts. I say. Lucas takes a step toward me, then stops at the white tape line marking the edge of the aisle, as if trained by etiquette to behave. Nora, he says, I am sorry. He looks like a boy who broke a window and offered to pay for glass. Someone in the back yells, let her finish, and the hall goes thunderquiet. The trap was simple. Ask a question only the truth could pass through without tearing. But traps are cruel when sprung. I cue the final slide, a blank screen with a single line. The projector throws it on the wall like a closing argument. When were you going to tell the bride? The text asks in black, unflinching. Lucas approaches the mic. I can feel Priya tense. Ivy stands behind a pillar, as invisible as a conscience. Elena grips the pew so hard her knuckles could light the room. Lucas's mother folds her arms and arranges her face into neutrality achieved through decades of charitable luncheons. I was going to tell you, Lucas says, after the ceremony but before the reception. A ripple of shock. So I could consent to appetizers, but not vows? I ask, hearing my voice from far away. I thought you'd hear it better in private, he says. I nod slowly. You mean without witnesses? He doesn't disagree. Priya switches to the metadata slide. Yes, there's metadata now, showing the recording time of Lucas's video. Last night, 1:41 a.m., 2 minutes after the projector upgrade was purchased. Insurance, Priya says. This is a strategy, not a confession. The officiant clears his throat. Consent, he says softly, is informed, or it is theater. Ivy steps forward, courage choosing her legs. A deputy signed an emergency duplicate under a statute designed for impediments. She says, careful to stay generic. Impediments are not typos. They are facts. Lucas's mother hisses, Who are you? Ivy meets her gaze. Someone who believes the bride deserves disclosure before a contract. I turn to Elena. Did you know? I ask. Tears fill her eyes. I knew something, she says. I wanted you safe. Safe is honest, I say. Lucas looks between us and makes a choice. The clause is real, he says into the mic. If we don't marry tonight, my share goes to my cousin and dozens of employees will lose jobs. He throws the crowd a lifeboat labeled urgency. A few heads nod. I look at the faces we love and measure how many will choose money over me. Priya moves her finger toward the slide with the sealed addendum citation. The big reveal requires calm to land like lightning. I steady my breath and let the room settle. Priya taps the citation slide and reads the plain English summary Ivy drafted. Good faith requires that material facts be disclosed to the spouse before the marriage. Failure may be grounds for voiding or sanctions. No Latin, no jargon, just words any uncle can understand. Lucas's mother lunges for the power strip. The banquet manager steps subtly between her and the cord, a hero with a name tag. Ivy produces a small handheld mic she borrowed from somewhere, because of course she did. I lay out the receipts like tarot cards. Duplicate application, registry edits, projector upgrade timestamp, recording time of Lucas's video, the trust's 9 p.m. vote. This is not a love story contaminated by error. I say. This is an investment thesis wearing a tux. Lucas tries a softer weapon. Nora, he says, we can fix it. We can file an affidavit after, we can make it right and make it ours. I ask the only question that matters. If there were no clause tonight, would you still be at this altar? He blinks and tells the worst truth of all with a silence that breaks like crystal. A murmur becomes a verdict. Elena sobs without sound. Priya rests a hand on my back, the way she did once after I failed my driver's test and thought I'd never steer anything. The officiant nods to me, eyes clear. I lift the mic and choose my future in public because that's where it was threatened. I will not marry a deadline, I say. I will not become a receipt. I hand Lucas the ring he picked. A perfect circle turned into a period. He takes it like evidence. Ivy steps forward to add the last card. A printed email from the deputy confirming that any attempt to correct after a marriage entered under withheld facts will trigger a review. Lucas's mother crumples it like a bad menu. Do you understand what you've done? She spits. I meet her eyes. I stopped a laundering event. The crowd is silent enough to hear ice settling in glasses. Lucas looks at me like a man who finally understands the cost of what he almost bought. Then his phone buzzes, and he goes white at the name, Attorney Chun. Fallout moves faster than music. Lucas steps aside to answer, then returns, face drained. The board advanced the vote. He says, mic-less now, voice carrying anyway. They read the filings and noted risk of bad faith union. They're moving the distribution to review. His mother sinks into the pew like a punctured raft. A murmur, then a few claps, quickly shushed. I feel the ache of what could have been and the relief of what won't. Elena wipes her cheeks and hugs me hard enough to bruise trust back into shape. I'm sorry, she whispers. I chose the wrong safety. I hold her. We can build the right one. I say. Priya is already doing tree-off. She cancels the bar upcharge, reassigns the projector to a playlist of bangers, and announces softly that the caterer will still serve. We're pivoting to a non-wedding. she tells the mic, and the crowd laughs the way people laugh at a funeral when someone tells a joke with perfect timing. Ivy slips me a card. If anyone harasses you later, she says, call me or Morales. She hesitates. I'll file a memo about the deputy, she adds, steel disguised as courtesy. Lucas hovers, stripped of armor. I'll face the review, he says. I'll tell them it was mine. It was yours, I say gently. But some of it was hers. I nod toward his mother. Pearl's now a noose. I pull Priya aside. I don't want revenge, I say. Just a clean ledger. She nods. Refunds and reversals, she says. We start with the registry hacks. She emails everyone a note. Please don't send wires. Consider donating to a legal aid clinic in our city instead. People cheer like they were invited to be decent and found it easy. Elena returns with 2 slices of cake. We eat them standing against a wall like teenagers. I feel my life click back into my bones. Not perfect, but mine. Lucas approaches one last time. If someday, he begins, voice raw, I can show you I'm better, I lift a hand. Show yourself, I say. I'm not your syllabus. He nods, a small bow to a different altar. Then a cousin raises a glass and asks if we'll still dance first. Healing doesn't arrive with a drum roll. It knocks like housekeeping and waits. The next week, I meet with a therapist who listens like a locksmith. We talk about patterns disguised as generosity, about how my childhood trained me to patch leaks with my own hands and call it love. She gives me a sentence I tape to my mirror. No more emergencies that require your silence. Priya sits with me while we cancel and reclaim. Chargebacks reverse deposits for the video wall. The venue keeps a modest fee, apologizes for the spectacle, and offers a weekday credit I politely decline. Elena sells the dress to a woman who will cut it to T-length and dance in it by a lake. Attorney Chan, who turns out to be reasonable and not a villain, emails me a short letter of apology on behalf of his firm for sending documents with misleading subject lines to pressure a timeline. I save it in a folder titled Boundaries. Ivy texts occasionally with updates. The deputy is on leave. The statute guidelines will get a clarification memo. Morales sends his regards and a joke about how love shouldn't require a docket number. On my end, I set conditions in writing for any future contact with Lucas's family. No gifts, no loans, no investments, no rumors laundered through elderly aunts. I block his mother on everything except a single email address monitored by a filter named non-urgent. One afternoon, Elena and I sit on my tiny balcony and eat peaches over the sink. She says she's starting a class at the community center, digital literacy for seniors, and asks if I'll guest lecture on how to spot a scam dressed as a wedding. We laugh until juice runs down our wrists. Priya makes me a playlist called Witness Protection for Your Heart and teaches me to salsa in socks on my kitchen floor. The city feels brighter, but maybe it's just me setting dimmers properly for once. A month later, an invitation arrives to a trust review hearing open to affected parties. I toss it in the drawer and take my sneakers to the park. On the path, someone jogs beside me, and it's Ivy without her badge. We match pace under sycamores. Ivy is off-duty and lighter, as if she shed a coat she never liked. You look good, she says. Eating cake during disasters suits you. We laugh. She updates me gently. The review found the clause enforceable in general, but voidable by bad faith practices. The board issued a reprimand and carved a portion of the distribution for an employee fund regardless of Lucas's status. They learned something, she says. I nod, chewing on the idea that institutions can change when people refuse to be silent. How are you? She asks, clerk turned friend. Less careful, I say, more precise. At home, I open a blank document and start writing an inventory of what I will and will not do. I will not marry deadlines, hush funds, or half-truths. I will read contracts like love letters and love letters like contracts, with care, curiosity, and an eye for missing terms. I will keep receipts, yes, but mostly of kindness. I will ask for projection screens only when what I'm showing is a dance montage. I will tell anyone who asks that humiliation passes, but self-respect lingers like a good chorus. For anyone listening, if an envelope lands on your vanity, open it, even if your hands shake. If the surprise makes you feel smaller, find people who make you feel accurate. Evidence is not unromantic. It is a love language with yourself. And if you ever stand at an altar and the air feels like a deadline, remember that a ceremony is a door, not a wall. You can walk through. You can also walk away. Both are brave. Only one is yours. That night, I meet Priya and Elena at the boardwalk where a wedding party is taking photos, tide coming in and joy like street music. We share fries, steal ketchup, and promise to practice telling the truth even when it interrupts a beautiful script. A breeze lifts my hair, and I realize I'm finally not rehearsing anymore.